Well, here we are, day 6 of the Hay Festival, and typical weather for Hay Festival, and I'm joined by the man that's completely responsible for this atrocious weather, brought all the way back up from the delightful Rhondda Valley in South Wales, Terry Watson.
Yes, I thought I was going to leave it behind this morning, but why should we have it all when other people are complaining they are parked? So I brought it along in the boot, plenty of water, just what you want. I would have been completely unhappy if the sun had been shining. I'd have been worrying what I could have been doing on the allotments instead of being here on this wild expanse of hay on white.
I know, and the worst thing is, of course, the delightful Mark Eccleston, ace photographer, has joined us today, and he's looking up at me starry-eyed, thinking, what on earth am I doing here? Because Mark's come all the way across from near Telford to build a habitat fire with some kids, which we can hear sort of the nice little voices echoing in the background. So hopefully they'll be turning up en masse later on in about an hour and a half or something.
I can imagine there'll be thousands of them. Yeah. When Barney the Dinosaur's finished, they'll be waiting to make lead piles.
So what do you think of the garden then, guys? Because this is the first time that both of you have seen it, I think, isn't it, thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise it was a permanent thing, and it looks really great, rather than being made just for a couple of weeks. The being permanent, it looks really, really good and fits in very nicely. Yeah,
it is fantastic. I'm really pleased the way it's turned out this year, and I think we've had the right mix of sunshine and rain. Last year the balance wasn't quite right, but this year things are looking good. And in fact, the forecast for tomorrow and the rest of the week is looking particularly bonny. So fingers crossed.
Do the meteorological stuff as well.
That's right, I do.
That's rather clever.
Should we
told me it was going to be nice today.
Should we three of us go out and have a look round? And you can't escape, Mark. You're okay. We'll leave you in here, and Terry and I will go out and have a butcher's. You have to wave. Just shout from the talk pavilion.
Away, yeah.
Now you say you've been here 6 days. When are you going to start on this garden?
Very good, very good.
To me, this looks like wild weeds. Is it wild weeds or not?
Wild weeds. A bit subjective, that expression, Terry.
Is it all right?
I think you'll find, that's right. Natural garden. There's a natural garden.
This is a natural garden.
Embraces all things that have a place that creates space for nature. So this essentially is about as biodiverse as a garden could possibly be.
All right. So this was founded back in 1947 in the Rhondda Gardens. All these people who used to hate gardening used to have natural gardens.
Just a couple of years after the war, even after Swansea had been bombed and it started to
so they have these natural gardens which were full of grass and full of these natural flowers. But I do notice that what are these sort of weird looking sort of igloos to my left?
What do you think of them?
They look quite good, but what are they? I mean,
they're I've called them willow bowers, but they've had various names over the last few days. People have called them twigloos and things like that.
Twigloos, right?
Yeah, but I came, between Christmas and New Year, a couple of days I took to build those. Very easy, lots and lots of interest in those. I think it could very well be a Wiggly product next year.
You're going to buy your own little bungalow. You can see when the kids don't behave and you put them in there. If you keep them in them on 2 hours, all this grows and they're completely encased. They can't run around anymore.
And the interesting thing is that they've been used loads and loads. You can see they've got these wonderful little runs through them that the kids have really enjoyed when the sun's been shining. So it's a fantastic thing, to be able to build something like that and for the space to be used as it should be. And of course, all the periphery of the garden is so wonderfully pink, and folks have been saying, how do you get all this wonderful ragged robin? But of course, if you look around you, it's kind of misty, but there are hills surrounding us, and essentially this is a kind of a sink, for all things moisture.
Oh, right.
And ragged robin tends to really enjoy.
It's really taken over the place, hasn't it?
Yeah.
The vivid pink of that and that little delicacy really makes it look.
Do you get much of that in the valleys?
Not at all. It wouldn't survive. We eat it. We don't care what we eat.
That's right.
When times are hard.
I know that when I come round to yours.
What is this sort of medieval burial mound with these sort of strange looking gravestones on it? They look like Wellingtons on a top.
Well, Heather spoke to Jules and said, she had a fantastic idea that we could get a load of wellies and use them as planters, because obviously Jules do this wonderful array of brightly coloured boots. So they said, we've got millions of odd boots, you're more than welcome to have. So they posted a load, and Hev was busy. These tomatoes, those black crim that you enjoyed growing last year.
From
Megan.
Megan in the States. All right, so you managed to keep some seed for 2 years.
I did. Well, I kept them in the fridge, the seed, and then of course I planted them off in the usual theme of tomato seeds. You plant them all, they all come. And I brought a load of plants over for Hev, and she planted them up. So the idea is to create all these little footprints, really, that the children could come.
So this is a real children-friendly garden.
It is a children-friendly garden, but it's also, I think you'll find it's relatively sophisticated in some respects.
Where?
This
where's the
this bun that you called a medieval burial
round, yes.
Well, I came out and I what I did here is I in order to give it some shape, I bent willow over underneath, so essentially it's got a kind of willow skeleton.
Right, and then you put compost on the top.
Well, no, what we did, put soil on the top, because there's a whole massive, great mound of soil on the other side of the site.
Right.
So there's quite a lot of barrowing involved one day. And then Jodie came out and did this wonderful wildflower turf around the edge, and you see all the top here, it's been inundated with chamomile.
So you're going to make a nice little sitting place.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So the children
are relax in the a chamomile bum seat.
Yes, a chamomile bum seat. Yeah, certainly. So it's a nice smell.
These Wellingtons really make it look attractive. You don't need any plants with these sort of Wellingtons. You've got some natural aesthetic view. It doesn't care about the weather.
It's a wonderful thing.
Designed for wet weather.
It's a great
Wellington garden.
Wellington garden. I think a guy asked me yesterday, could he grow potatoes in Wellingtons? My answer was probably, I was slightly ironic, I seem to remember, but what would you say when someone says what sort of crop would you like to get from Wellington?
I wouldn't bank on surviving the winter on a crop. You've got to do one Wellington, would you? I mean, it depends what grows in the toe, isn't it? I mean, you cut the toe and then you got one potato in the bottom. You're probably better off eating the seed potato yourself.
I think you're right.
But then you've got all these little raised beds with them full of these delightful looking plants that look extremely healthy.
I'm a big fan of raised beds, I mean, these are this classic raised beds that Wiggly...
lazy gardeners who
I totally disagree with that.
It's okay, when you're in a show garden where you want plenty of space for people to walk. I mean, even on the path you have there, you could grow.
It's a practical way of growing things. You don't have to go onto the beds. You don't have to dig the beds. I mean, what time you spend with your poor old back? I mean, your poor old bones would be so much better if you terraced your allotment.
But I can't eat anything off the path. You've got to have ground. I mean, paths are something which is a no-no. I mean, you have to have them in small amounts, but they have to be movable and they have to be tiny. I mean, look at it. You've got more path than you have edible ground.
But in this instance, of course, this is a space that's created to be as accommodating as possible. So there had to be a balance between. You need a throng of visitors, and equally they need to be able to observe the opportunities that they can
as a showpiece to encourage people to come out here and grow vegetables. Then yes, they look good, but then they go away and they do exactly the same, and then they recreate this massive paths with little or no ground and massive paths. You'd be better off growing on the paths and walking on the raised beds. I mean, you get far more crops.
Well, because the other thing you get from these, if you do it, this is these wonderful cobbles that these raised beds have been set in, and if you have little mats of wild thyme and the like growing in these, then it's a wonderful thing, don't you think? You're not convinced.
I think I'll leave the judge be out on that.
You're totally not convinced. So Marky's come out to join us.
No, this little bit here, which you've got all these pieces of wood there, why didn't you turn that over and have a nice little crop of potatoes in there?
Well,
you'd have the little purple and white flowers of the potato, and underneath would be these little swelling white jewels of potatoes you could be eating.
No, I think this is a most wonderful thing, and what's really interesting, another thing I heard this week, somebody said to me about plantains. In fact, I think it was Sorrel Everton from Gardens Illustrated, because she wants to grow more plantains in her garden. Right. And one of the most common things that people moan about ribwort plantains in their wildflower turf. Now, if you look at that, if you look at the head of that plantain, isn't that a wonderful thing? You've got that wonderful miniature cylinder that's coming to a point at the top, and these beautiful little petals on the end of those lovely tall delicate stamens. Don't you think that's a lovely thing though?
No.
Yeah, so you've got no soul. You've got no soul.
How can you enthuse over something that looks sort of,
that's
to me,
wonderful,
really insignificant? I mean, look at it. If that was growing amongst my carrots, I'd pull it out.
No. Well, I know you would.
It's not like you're going to keep a flock of sheep.
Okay.
When it comes to gardening, I'm a Philistine.
If you look at these, right, here's a test for you. Now, you are definitely the experts of all things brassica-like.
Yeah.
What are those?
One of those.
Because I didn't look at the label before they went in, and I wasn't sure what type of brassica. I mean, they're obviously doing really well, and they're filling out beautifully. They've got lovely green, fleshy leaves.
Those over there are Savoys.
Right.
That's definitely a Savoy on that side, because it's got that crinkly leaf.
Blimey, so you can honestly tell the difference between this half and that half.
That is definitely a Savoy.
Okay.
And that looks like a cauliflower or a broccoli or one of these sort of cut and come again.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can clearly distinctly tell. I mean, the only time you cannot tell a cabbage from the rest of the varieties is in its seed leaf stage.
Yeah.
As soon as the main leaf forms, if that was a Brussels sprout, you'd have a round sort of plate shape leaf.
Okay.
The cauliflower gets a longer shape leaf. Cabbages, the different types are more difficult to distinguish, but that to me certainly looks like a Savoy.
Right.
So am I right or am I wrong?
I think you're absolutely right. I'm going to take your word for it because I'm not entirely sure myself. The only way I'm going to find out is if I take a couple home and plant them in the garden.
Yeah, they're going to take some while, but I mean, I would say they are some sort of broccoli.
It's an interesting thing, right? Last year, I went over to Marky's, who's just come out and joined us now.
In the rain.
And
in the rain.
And Mark's got a couple of raised beds in his garden, you know, which is a good thing.
You were spreading the wrong gospel. That's the trouble.
And Mark was growing some. Well, were they Brussels sprouts? Did you go last year?
They were cabbages.
They were inundated with caterpillars, weren't they?
Yeah.
And you've said to me, and exactly, I've said it before. You've said that you're not going to grow them anymore because you end up having to kill the caterpillars that you really enjoy looking at.
Yeah, which goes against
the grain of natural gardening.
Squishing the caterpillars for some.
It's quite funny because Terry raises his eyes to the sky, thinking, "What are these two nodders talking about?"
I love the cabbage white butterfly. Don't get me wrong. I would miss him if he wasn't flying around. But I'm quite happy if he goes and has his brood on somebody else's. Or if you can grow some nasturtiums, then he'll have a nibble of the nasturtiums, which are the alternative. But if he starts nibbling my Brussels sprout,
watch out.
I'll be back. I'll be back.
I'll be back.
I'm like Sylvester Stallone out there. We got no chance.
Right then, Terry. Here's a test for you.
Yeah.
What? Any idea what this is going to turn out to be at the end of today?
A bonfire.
Oh, well.
It's cold and wet today, so a nice bonfire. A nice bonfire would have been. A nice bonfire would go down a tree. We can have some sausages.
Some kindling on the top.
We can have some sausages on there. A nice little bit of warmth. What more do you want? Right. I mean, that's real use for a bit of wood. That I can see the value in it.
Well, what we have got is some bricks and some hollow pipe, some clay pipe, a bag of straw and some split logs and some sycamore logs. And I do believe that Farmer Phil actually picked these up physically himself without using a machine and put them into a trailer, which is quite something. So he's obviously made an effort
on himself
for you, Mark. For you.
What's the significance of their sycamore logs then?
To be honest, the significance is that it was a tree that lent itself to being cut down.
Oh, right. There was no significance of that. This log pile has to be made of sycamore logs.
In some respects, sycamore is quite a good thing. It does deteriorate quite quickly.
Right.
So it's not going to stand the test of time like a fallen ash or a fallen oak would.
So is that someone out for the slugs to hibernate?
Well, Mark's going to tell us. Give us the lowdown.
It's a slug pile, yeah.
Give us the lowdown. What is this pile of detritus?
This pile of stuff is like an example of what you might have knocking around your own garden or whatever, and it's going to be turned into a log pile habitat tower type thing.
Okay.
So who's going to live in the habitat?
We're going to have slugs. Definitely a good place for slugs.
Good place for slugs. So they haven't got far to walk for breakfast. They're quite convenient for breakfast.
We got all sorts of insects will be in there. Your spiders, your beetles. So you're going to have beneficial stuff as well as some of the stuff you might not particularly want.
But despite all the joking and that, I have a log pile in my garden. And I love it because they get the stag beetles and God knows what living in it.
Do you?
Yeah, and they come out and they eat the slugs. So I do have a log pile at the behind that oak tree.
It's a nice little balance, really.
It is, yeah.
Fantastic.
A little place if you can get a nice little hedgehog to move in or whatever.
I'm going to say there, it's not the stag beetles that are coming out and eating your slugs. I feel as though I need to spend more time educating you about all things invert.
Who's eating my slugs then?
Possibly the ground beetles.
Ground beetles are there, not the stag beetles. Ground beetles.
The beetle larvae tend to live in rotting wood for several years before they emerge as those glorious big beasts. You get various little ground beetles, and those scurrilous little guys will come out and feast on your slugs, certainly.
Right.
Yeah. So this ramshackle pile of logs and pipe and straw, what's it going to look like when it's finished, Mark?
I haven't a clue, but
have you not been driving over from Telford thinking, right, I need to build that in the shape of, an Egyptian pyramid?
Funny enough, no. But I was thinking, look at the rain clouds, but
completely you.
Yeah, there is that indeed.
But then do you bring all these little animals along with you then to put in there, or do they find it themselves?
A couple of, I've got a few in my pocket. I've got a few slugs and snails.
You don't go handing out
but,
down the showground today. It's just people saying, send along your little.
That's it, yeah.
Send along your pest to live in my log pile.
But no,
you could make a decent bit of rent out of that.
You could indeed, yeah.
Renting people's pests out.
Different things like slugs are so much.
Come on, guys, let's go and have a look. You see the sunflowers, Terry, and Mark, you know, those were seeded last year, you know, and they've just deteriorated beautifully. And in fact, there's not a seed left in that.
That's a bizarre. It's deteriorated beautifully.
They're still exactly as they were about 3 months ago. You see, there's not a seed there, and there's any because essentially, you know, this garden is in the middle of a field in the middle of winter. So of course, there's anything that has a mind to can come in here and feast on all the opportunities that the garden hosts for them, and it's a great thing. I mean, sunflowers are so easy to grow. You know, you plant a little seed, and something that the kids can do. Plant a little seed in a pot, put it out there, and you will have thousands of seeds off the back of that. So it's something that looks beautiful but transforms into a very inexpensive bird feeder.
That's true. I can't argue that
point.
Have
you ever grown sunflowers on the allotment?
No, never grown sunflowers on the allotments.
Are you coming through, Mark? Are you attached?
The umbilical cord won't stretch that far, but I'm just going
to take Terry to look at these bee boxes, because of course we put one on the allotment, didn't we?
We did, but at the moment,
how's it going? Is it doing?
No, it's still as pristine as the day it went out.
Okay, what I'm finding particularly interesting here is why there are mealworms in this bee box. How did they get in there?
On a day like today, where's the best place to hide?
I'm not sure what's going on there, because well, it may be.
No, when there was a plug with a bit of clay, are they actually bees inside there? Are the larvae in there?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you can see whether they've been occupied. So
when they hatch out, they actually push that plug out and fly away. So the plug is ready.
That's exactly what they do. The adults would masticate them. Be careful the way I use that word.
That's right. That's a dangerous word.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Take your hands out before I stop masticating. You say.
How did we lost
it? I feel to our sense of humour there, wasn't it? Bees, they will almost certainly put a little mud plug in the back of the stem. So whilst you can
there's
see
one little solitary larva in there.
No, there will be probably several in a series of capillaries right to the front of each of these.
So they one will go in, plug, one will go in, plug, one will go in. Oh, the poor devil in the back out then.
Well, for a long time that wasn't realised, you know. But what happened is a sort of perspex inspection side was put on one of these things, and someone was able to observe the bee behaviour. So when they emerged, they realised that the one at the back nibbled through the mud plug, because obviously the one at the back gets laid first if it's when it's conceived, and it bites the bum of its sibling in front of it. You know, it sort of harasses it to do exactly the same thing.
Oh, so you'll have a big mass exodus all together all at the same time.
Yeah.
Even though these at the front might be laid a lot later than the ones behind.
Yeah, they just they're hustled out by their siblings behind them.
Well, mine hasn't got that effect yet, So what
they will do certainly. Well, these are this is
got a little letterbox you got.
Well, this is a letterbox full of bark. And really, you know, something like this is ideal for someone in a relatively small urban garden. I mean, obviously, people in large rural spaces will put these things up as well, but they make a great habitat for hibernated inverts. You know, you will find all sorts of creatures sort of ensconced there during the winter time, especially with this lovely moisture retentive sequoia bark. You know, I mean, it's not always necessary to get the right type of bark, but this kind of fluffy bark really lends itself to because inverts tend to enjoy moist conditions in order to hibernate in.
So what would live in
anything from lacewings to ladybirds to queen wasps to earwigs, millipedes, centipedes. The whole
so it becomes
world
a bit of a hostel then, does it?
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got any bug box in your garden, Mark? Or?
Yeah, the ones with the tubes in. I use the teasels. Come the autumn time, use the teasel tubes and cut them to size and then put them in the boxes here. So
and that works okay.
Yeah, it's been very effective. There's all sorts in there.
The people often ask, you know, what could I use for a hollow tube? And obviously bamboo is something that's fairly easy to get hold of, but it's something equally that you have to pay for. So to use teasels and Japanese knotweed if you're unfortunate enough to have it grown in the garden, or cow parsley.
That must be the only practical use for Japanese knotweed.
Probably is. But I think the most important thing with those hollow stems is that they're smooth bored. That's the most important thing, because the bees don't like a rough sort of surrounding. Yeah, it's like a woman. You know, she likes a nice smooth hand on her inner thigh.
As you said, you brought that worm that salty bee thing down for me sometime, though. Nothing's moved in yet.
Right.
I can see why,
Right, okay.
I haven't got the sign. I mean, you actually got a to let sign here which says
right, yeah.
B&B for bees.
Indeed.
I haven't got that put up. You see, so
Right.
how do they know mine's there?
Well-
I mean, they obviously fly along and they say, "Oh, there's a B&B." They do charge for that. Is that free?
They come in. I've seen. Well, strange enough, I haven't experienced that exact scenario, but equally, it sort of certainly fires the imagination of passers
So I
by.
need to get one of these signs now, do I?
I think you should. In fact, it wouldn't be a bad idea to have some signage on the allotment of sorts.
Well, I can have something. We got that one, Police Park Pritters,
Especially as as your celebrity status increases to grow and grow, and the likelihood of more visitors to the allotment, a bit of signage, a bit of a Walton interpretation might be a useful thing.
Well, I definitely need one of them because nothing's taken up residency yet. I mean, they are flying around the valley looking for this solitary bee nest, and they have not found a sign.
Yeah.
So I mean, I need that before I go today.
You see this space here. I mean, what Jodie was able to do.
Well,
was
this space looks slightly different to the rest of the space.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, that's right. Don't know at all. You're not using your imagination as well. I detect just a hint of sarcasm in your tone.
Well, I mean, if this was my allotment, we'd throw me out.
The idea is not to grow spuds, is to grow
it's edible.
All sorts of flora, and you've got a mix here of various things. No, I wouldn't say it was all. In fact, there's some globe flowers over there I noticed in the marshy area, which are decidedly poisonous. But you see, what's this here? Okay, tell me what this is. What's that, Mark? Do you know what that is?
That's marjoram, isn't it?
Anti-rhinium. Well, it could be an anti-rhinium.
Is that marjoram?
Absolutely right, yeah. Smack on, yeah, marjoram. And marjoram is one of the best bee plants imaginable. It spreads itself out. It's inundated with flowers, very rich in pollen and nectar. And of course, you can eat it as well.
That's not.
It's not because it's not out yet. It's not out yet.
I mean, you just give these listeners the impression that was inundated with flowers.
Well, this is radio.
I am you.
This is radio. We make things up every week.
I know. I do that on radio too.
I know. I'm all too aware of it. I've been knowing you for as long as I have now. Yeah. And what do you think of that space over there? You see. Back in the winter I came along and I dug that essentially I think we called it a rain gun or sometimes it gets called a moisture retentive area, but essentially it's a bog garden, but essentially it's a pond full of soil, obviously full of water forget-me-not. A ragged robin does especially well. Teasers and
laying
things like
eggs
that.
and anything?
Yeah, but we had problems here. We weren't allowed to put in something that contained standing water. Right. So that even though the whole site tends to contain standing water,
there's plenty of puddles.
You're not allowed to deliberately create it.
No,
only generally do it.
What do you think of that? No, precisely right. Precisely right. Yeah, but you see, there's all sorts of stuff going in there, isn't there? I mean, you've got the lady's smock, and there's some water avens. That lovely mat, and of course, that's obviously the first year that's been put in. So next year, as this is a perpetually evolving space, as any garden should be, it will be a rich mat of colour. It will be an entirely different animal altogether. But so I'm particularly pleased with that. And Jodie came along and did some wonderful planting there. So that's good stuff.
I take some convincing.
You take some convincing. So generally speaking, I mean, be honest with me now. What do you think?
Well, I mean, if you want a lazy garden, you can wander around, don't have to get the lawnmower, you don't have to do anything. I mean, you can just sort of create one of these. This is perfect.
All right,
you can sit here and sip beer all day and watch the grass grow. That's what I call real good gardening.
I think
you see, we've got chickens
and these lovely mushroom rings and wild mushroom rings.
These are for
what we'll do is
these
just
are for the gnomes to sit on. Where's the gnomes?
The gnomes. Well, I just have to look for a little. Well, use your imagination, Terry. You seem to be struggling with that.
Is this a maze? Is it? You've got to go. You wander around it and
precisely. Yeah, there you are. You see.
I see
you're entertained by that.
See, like you've got that right to the centre. I'm in the middle now.
He's too tall, though. We can see over the top.
That's right.
It's a bit low. It is sort of me, isn't it? You'd have to be a leprechaun to get lost in there, wouldn't you?
Leprechaun. But you see the little shiitake mushrooms coming out of these.
Yeah. Fungus growing on them.
Precisely, and shiitake mushrooms. Have you ever eaten shiitake mushrooms? I'm sure you have.
I've eaten shiitake mushrooms.
Yeah, and they're beautiful. beautiful things. I mean, you know, obviously the fungi, you see it emerging now on these logs, and I think some of that might well be going home for the frying pan at the end of the week.
Yeah, it's like a bit of bokashi and shikati together, aren't it? That's right. It's a good Japanese meal.
I think. And on that note, I think we should all say bye-bye. Here's looking forward to the Marquis Ecclestone habitat pile creation later on today.
Should be awesome.
I'm really looking forward to seeing that pile of logs and pipes creating some work of art. This could be worth millions, you know. Somebody might make a bid for it.
It could be.
You know, you've seen these sets of the Tate Gallery who wins these big awards, you know. There's your chance, Mark.
That's it. I'm going for it.
You've got your foot on the ladder now. You've got the materials, you've just got to create the work.
Bye-bye, listener.
Bye-bye.
Ta now.